Today I am installing a chimney liner with my friend who is a stove installer. The job is to expose a flue because it's currently capped over, install the liner, and then we're going to have to put a pot on afterwards and seal that into place. The chimney itself is a shared chimney, and I don't particularly want to have to reflaunch the entire lot, so I'm going to try and expose the flue in a neat way so I don't have to do too much concreting for the new pot. So stick around and I will show you how that job is done. Right, once the introduction's out of the way, I get into the cherry picker and I'm heading up to the chimney. This is one of those jobs where having a cherry picker really comes into its own. It makes accessing the chimney top so much easier and safer. I can take everything I need with me in one go. I've got a petrol concrete saw, hammer, bolster, rubble bucket, all in the basket. No climbing ladders or dragging tools up in awkward stages. It's a game changer for jobs like these. My goal is to install a chimney liner, and that means first I've got to expose the correct flue in the shared chimney. Now, I don't want to damage more of the flaunching than I have to, so I use the petrol concrete saw to cut a neat opening. There are likely 3 flues in here, and I only want the one that connects to the living room. Now, because the neighbour's stove is already using the middle flue, it's a good bet ours is the same. I cut 3 lines into the concrete to open up that section. Then with my trusty S-wing hammer, I chip away carefully at the concrete, which comes off very nicely and easily, and soon I've exposed the flue. Quick shout down to the stove fitter on the ground and I confirm that I have got the right one. Spot on. Once that's done, I head back down to clear out the tools and rubble from my basket. Now it's time to prep the liner. Chimney liners come wrapped in bubble wrap and plastic for protection. I like to remove most of this on the ground to keep things tidy, but I always leave one layer of plastic on. That last bit of plastic helps keep the liner coiled up, which makes transporting it in the cherry picker much easier. A coiled liner is also way easier to handle when dropping it down. Uncoiled liners drag on the roof and are a nightmare to twist in place. Liners also often have a light coating of oil on them to prevent them from rusting, which I can't stand getting on my skin or my clothes. So I always wear an old coat. I don't mind getting messy. And that makes this job quite sweaty in the middle of summer, but at least I stay clean-ish. I load the liner into the cherry picker's basket and head back up to the chimney. It's another point for the cherry picker, which is really earning its keep on this job. This particular chimney has a tight bend near the bottom, so we've attached a cone and a rope to the end of the liner to help guide it round the bends. Don't always need to attach a rope to it, but on this occasion it's a good idea. I drop the rope down to the stove fitter below and carefully start feeding the liner down. Sometimes the liner can catch on a stray brick or mortar, and giving it a twist usually helps work it past any snags, and also it helps it round bends. If it's really tight, the stove fitter can pull gently on the rope to help it through. It's important to install chimney liners the right way up. They're directional. I've learnt that the hard way once and had to pull the whole liner back up and flip it around. Install it upside down and it will corrode far faster. Once the liner is roughly in place, I usually have to make a few up and down adjustments so the stove fitter can secure it properly to the register plate below. Communication is actually really easy at this stage. I just talk through the chimney liner. If I hold the end of the liner to my ear, I can hear the stove fitter with perfect clarity. It works a treat, like a giant metal telephone. Once everything's lined up properly, I trim off the excess using my battery angle grinder, but I always leave more than I need. You can always cut more off later, you can't stick any back on. Then I give the top a quick clean using my cordless blower. While I was up there, I promised the customer I would take down their old TV aerial. I already had my grinder handy, so I quickly removed it, brought it down while I was heading back to pick up the chimney pot and concrete anyway. Back on the ground, it's time to mix up some concrete to bed the pot. One of my pet hates is mixing by hand. It's far too much hard work. So I've got a nice setup on my trailer with a petrol generator, a large mixing bucket and a paddle mixer, which makes life much easier. I always put the water in the bucket first, then a splash of SPR Bond. Shameless plug, check out my deep dive video into SPR Bond if you want to know more about this brilliant white product. Then I add a strong mix of 3 parts sharp sand to 1 part cement and mix it up using the paddle mixer. With the mix ready, I load it into the cherry picker basket along with the pot, cowl, slates and tools and head back up. Before bedding the pot, I use a 1-to-1 mix of SPR Bond and water to prime the area I'll be working on. I use an old paintbrush to apply this. It goes on white but dries clear, so you don't need to be too fussy with it. You're not going to stain any brickwork if a bit splashes onto it. Now then, the flue opening is wider than the pot, so I use roofing slates to span the gap and create a stable base. The pot can then be placed on top of the slates. And if it doesn't sit level and plumb, I can use extra slates underneath the pot to adjust it. Once it's sitting right, I brush a bit more priming mix over the slates and start packing concrete mix around the pot. I keep adding concrete until the pot is locked into position. Then I smooth and slope the concrete down towards the edge of the chimney. It's important that flaunching slopes away from the centre and goes all the way to the edge of the bricks. That way rainwater can run off instead of sitting on top of the chimney or soaking into the masonry. With the pot secure, I can trim the liner so it sits about 10mm below the top of the chimney pot. Now normally we'd set the liner height from below and pull it up 200mm to attach the cowl using a Jubilee clip, then drop it back down into place. But on this occasion, the liner was so tightly wedged into the flue we couldn't budge it. So instead, we seated the cowl directly onto the liner and secured it to the pot using a Jubilee clip. I like to tighten Jubilee clips using a screwdriver flip and an 8mm socket. Don't forget to bend up the little metal tags on the cowl so it doesn't rattle loose. Then I can trim off the clip's tail using a grinder and it's job done. I like to do one final check of the chimney, the pot, the cowl and the concrete before I head back down to the ground. On this occasion, everything's good, so let's get out of here. My work here is done. All that's left for me to do now is tidy up my tools, put the machine on the trailer and skedaddle. Just to recap what we've done here, I exposed the flue as the chimney had been capped off. I have installed a new liner down the chimney for the stove fitter to connect to the new stove that's going in at the property. He's just got to finish that off now. And then I had to install a pot and concrete that into position, cut the liner to size, fit the cowl, and job's a fish. I hope you found that interesting and potentially useful. If you have, please give us a thumbs up. If you've got any feedback for me, please leave it in the comments. I always appreciate your comments. And if you enjoyed the video, please subscribe to the channel for more videos, more content similar to this. Thanks for watching. I'll see you on the next job.